Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Arsenal News Show. Join you every morning at 8 a.m. US time, well, CDT today, joining you from Chicago, of course. You're going to hear, obviously, the audio is not going to be as clear and crisp because I don't have my usual microphone and I don't have my usual camera. I'm using the laptop camera and microphone. So apologies for that. You're going to have to suffer away with that for a week or so, but it's going good. It's going well. Very much looking forward to getting on with the rest of my break away and getting underway with all the Arsenal events a little bit later on this week. So, yeah, very much excited to be here and looking forward to it. Yesterday, we went to the top of the 94th floor of the John Hancock Tower, of which we managed to get some brilliant views. I say we, myself, and Mike, who I can see is already in the chat box. Some amazing views from the top of the John Hancock Tower, and it was a really good start to the day. And with Scott, who's one of the Chicago Gooners who are going to be at the event on Friday, and I'm looking forward to seeing people join us. Of course, this is the time of the show for the next few days or so. Things will be back at the usual 8 a.m. UK time on Wednesday, the 26th. That's when you'll be back. But for now, for the next 6-7 days, this is going to be your normal time for the Arsenal News Show. I am still massively jet lagged, and I'm probably going to be crashing as soon as I finish this show, to be honest. I tried to stay up as late as I could yesterday, but even then I failed to end up sleeping. I think I woke up at about 1 a.m. this time, which is obviously 7 a.m. UK time, and really struggled to kind of get back to sleep till about 4:30 a.m. And then I've been awake since 4:30 a.m. So it's been a long morning, but let's say good morning to those joining us, or good afternoon to those, some of us joining us in the chat box. Oh, Dave, good morning to you. Olu, good morning. Philip, and we've got Steve, we've got Philip, Francois, Mike. Mike in Perth. I mean, what time must it be out there in Australia? What, around, I guess, afternoon time for you, towards the evening? NSW, Red Star, Martin, Paul, we've got JDV, we've got Pan Rasta, we've got SJ, Temi, Craig, Peter, and Tom as well, and plenty more of you as well. I'm also using the hotel Wi-Fi. I'm hoping that it's going to be strong enough and good enough to continue to do these shows. It's been okay so far. So hopefully things will hold up and be just fine. Let's crack on with today's stories. We start with Arsenal's massive game in the WSL as Arsenal take on Manchester United in what looks to be the pink kit. The pink kit has returned. It's been elusive for Arsenal this season, but the ladies will indeed be sporting it today. The ramifications of this are significant. Arsenal can go level on points at the top of the table with a win over United. Of course, Chelsea still leading the way in terms of the games played. Played the same amount of games as Arsenal, but are 2 points ahead. Man United have played one more game, I think, than Arsenal, but have that 3-point lead and a significantly improved goal difference. So a win at Man United would be absolutely massive for the ladies. And so fingers crossed they can achieve that. Man City is still very much in the race as well. Yesterday's Champions League action, I managed to catch the end of both of the Chelsea and Napoli games, of which both the aforementioned sides have now been dumped out of the competition. And all I could do was laugh. All I could do was laugh when I saw Frank Lampard's lineup for that game. What on earth was he thinking? Like what? I didn't understand the selection, who was in there. You need to try and score goals, and you leave all your strikers and wingers on the bench. It made absolutely no sense. So yeah, very strange. Dumped out of the Champions League after a 4-0 aggregate scoreline. And Real Madrid will go on to face, we assume, Manchester City, who, of course, take on Bayern this evening, UK time this afternoon. US time, I wonder if I'll be able to watch any of that one. Very interesting indeed to see if it happens. Moving on, and Arsenal, of course, have made no approach for Ollie Watkins thus far. Fabrizio Romano tweeting out yesterday that despite suggestions that Arsenal would move the Aston Villa forward, who has been in absolutely blistering form this season, you have to say, no plans at the moment in time in order to approach Ollie Watkins. Could that change in the summer? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see if indeed Arsenal do look to pursue a striker and whether or not Ollie Watkins is high up on their list. But I would be surprised, very surprised indeed, if that would be the case. Now, our two headline stories today. First of all, Arsenal are said to be interested in Robin Lenormand, who is a French centre-back, 26-year-old playing for Real Sociedad in Spain's La Liga competition. Right-sided centre-back. So you'd imagine that this is the William Saliba competition if Arsenal are indeed pushing to try and sign one of these players in the summer. There is kind of part. I mean, there is part of me that does think that the situation with Holding is obviously going to spark suggestions that Arsenal would be looking for a right-sided centre-back. So I would recommend that you take these links that we are hearing coming out of Spain with a bit of a pinch of salt on this side of things, because I don't know much about the player, and I don't think he's ever been linked with Arsenal before today. So I would be surprised if Arsenal were going in for a player in the level of there's talk of a 50 million euro release clause. I don't know why Arsenal would be looking to activate a 50 million euro release clause for a backup player. I know that we spent a lot of money on Fabio Vieira, around 34 million pounds, but to spend 50 million euros on a player that would be coming in to ostensibly be a backup to William Saliba and Ben White, and maybe even Tomiyasu, I don't know if Arsenal would be going down that route. But that is the story coming out in the transfer world. Now, a headline story, of course, will continue, it seems, as we discuss William Saliba's availability. And according to my colleague Kai Kanak at Football.London, reporting yesterday that it is unlikely that Saliba will be ready to face Southampton. Of course, we did hear from Mikel Arteta last week, in which he said there was an expectation it could be a few weeks, and that they hope to see him in a few weeks' time, which would certainly rule him out the Southampton game and maybe even the Manchester City game. That said, there have been suggestions that Arsenal might be considering risking throwing Saliba in that game against Man City to see how he responds and reacts. And of course, if they need to bring on Holding at half-time or at any point during the game, they can do that. But we'll hear from Mikel Arteta more ahead of the Southampton game. Press conference, I believe, is on Thursday. I might need to double check that, though. Being out of the loop since being in the US means I've missed any emails that have come through. But of course, Arteta will address the media ahead of the Southampton game. And hopefully we get some good news on Saliba. But I'm not hopeful that we'll see him involved before that. But yeah, there you go. That is all of this week's, last couple of days' stories. We do have a brand new prize to tell you about, courtesy of Football Prizes. If you just go to the Football Prizes website, link down in the description, you can win a signed Ben White shirt. And not only that, but you can win a third shirt, also signed by Ben White as well. So lots of opportunities there to win a shirt signed by Ben White if you are indeed based in the UK. And 60 of the 125 tickets have already been sold. Or rather, 65 have been sold. 60 are still left to be sold. So there you go. That is the end of part one. So we're going to move to part two and your questions right after this. Now, of course, you can still get hold of our TGT merch. I am sporting the brand new USA version of our cap, which is going to be made available to our those that are travelling into Chicago on Friday. We are going to be opening these up for the wider purchase a little later as well for everybody. But you can still get our red, gold, and silver or grey versions of the merchandise as well. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, to go and do it. Link in the description to our merchandise page. Okay. Let's go into the chat box to see what questions we've got. Marcus says, you did not pack the TGT sign to hang behind you. No, I'm not sure I would have got that through customs. I mean, they would have asked so many questions about what it was. But no chance I was going to get that through the doors. Let's go to Michael says, this is my first morning show. You must be in Chicago. I am indeed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Briefer says, how is Ramsdale's town? Of course, if you're a long time listener, you know that Ramsdale, aka Chicago, and it's very good indeed. I've enjoyed everything about it so far. We're going to be doing a river cruise today, myself and Mike, getting a sight, kind of taking in the atmosphere of the city a little bit more, and then I can't wait to see more people turning up ahead of the game. I think more people are turning up on Thursday, so we should be seeing people on Thursday evening as well. I'm definitely going to crash though at some point today. I'm going to need to get some kind of sleep because I did not get much at all yesterday. Marcus says, do we need a centre-back who can play right back due to Tomiyasu's injuries and cover if Ben White is, of course, injured? I think that Tomiyasu ultimately is going to be a player when he gets back, and he should be for the start of next season, that is basically what's described at the moment as the fifth defender. He can cover right back, centre back, left back, and can cover those positions at a very good level. I think Arsenal need to go and sign a right back who is more varied in their approach, someone that can be more overlapping, more offensive, more attacking on that right-hand side. And because of that, I don't think you're necessarily going to see a centre-back that can play right back come in through the doors in the summer. I'd be surprised if that's the route that we went down. I think with the players we've been linked to, like Ivan Fresneda and Sasha Boye, for instance, that it's more likely that we see those type of attacking, more Zinchenko-esque in the sense of Fresneda coming through the door than somebody more of a centre-back style. Let's go to Steve says, chat box, am I the only one who says right after this at the same time that Tom says it? I mean, surely then you're also saying up the Arsenal at the end of the shows, surely, or you're doing the intros because they've become so monotonously similar every show that you can pretty much predict what I'm going to say, as long as I say, as always, about 17 times before we wrap up. Lachlan says, who do you see Man City most likely dropping points against, excluding us? I think obviously the Brighton away game's the big one. I don't think they'll drop points against Chelsea because Chelsea are terrible. We should not drop points against Chelsea either because they're terrible. And then the last game of the season, they're away to Brentford. And that's maybe something that we'll see, maybe see them drop points in. Keep our fingers crossed that is certainly the case because we could really do with them dropping points in that game. Amira says, what's your first touristy stop today? Touristy stop. I'm not sure. As I say, we're going to be doing a river cruise today, taking in the sights of the city and looking forward to seeing lots of different things. I've been told I need to go and see the Bean. I think it's just a big metal bean, but apparently that's something I need to go and see. So that's definitely going to be on the list of things. The weather's not going to be great for the rest of the week. So I think today until the middle of the afternoon is the best time to kind of use the weather that we've got. So it might be that I need to take my nap in the afternoon rather than this morning and use up any of the better weather that we've got. I mean, looking outside, it's still pretty cloudy. So I'm not expecting anything big regarding the weather this week. It's not meant to be that good. Bradley says, are you going to have a casserole pizza? I don't know what a casserole pizza is unless that's the deep dish ones. I mean, me and Mike went to a place called Gino's yesterday and had our first deep dish pizza, and it was so good. So good. What I would say is that I'm still a thin crust guy, but the experience of obviously trying something different. The crust is very kind of it's like pastry almost. It's very different to what I'm used to, but still very, very nice indeed. Let's go to Fred says, enjoy Chicago Town. Tom, quick question. Chelsea will need to sell in the summer. Do you think there's any players that you would like Edu to target? They will have to move some players on. They will obviously be thinning that squad. I'm not necessarily sure. You know, you instantly look at forwards with Chelsea because there's so many there. And I think a right-sided forward is what Arsenal should be looking to strengthen if they do bring anyone in that line in the summer. And they don't really have too many. They have Ziyech, who I wouldn't take. Madueke, who they wouldn't sell because they've only just signed him. Sterling's more of a left-sided player, even though I would be more interested in someone like Sterling. I like Raheem Sterling. I'm not sure he's the right one for us right now, but I do like Raheem Sterling. It's difficult. I'm not sure I would. Zachary will go back to Juventus. He's done quite well. Could be maybe one to be a one to look at. I think he's impressed. Done more than I think what people expected him, including me, to do. And he's not been used anywhere near enough as what he should have been. And then there's Mason Mount, who we also quite like. And if Emile Smith-Rowe's future is to lie away from Arsenal, I don't think that Mason Mount would be all that bad of a replacement if Smith-Rowe was ever to move on. I was listening to the Arse blog on the flight yesterday, on the Arsecast Extra, and it was interesting hearing James and Andrew talk quite openly about the possibility of Emile Smith-Rowe leaving the club. That, I think, is certainly one to watch. Ashton says, what would you think about Frimpong? I saw United were linked to him. That's Jeremy Frimpong, the Dutch international and Bayer Leverkusen right back. Used to be at Celtic, of course. I followed him when he was playing in Scotland. I think I wrote a big kind of scouting piece on him when he was in Scotland, because he was very impressive, very offensive minded, and so kind of fits into that mold of what maybe we want in terms of a varied option. I think it would be very expensive. And I think for that right back position, if Arsenal want variation, Arsenal are going to be looking for a bit of a savvy deal, I think, to try and get somebody in that's not as expensive as what we've seen previously. Steve says, speaking of Smith Rowe, do you have concerns that he is not being used as a substitute? Yes, that is absolutely a concern I have. I think that Smith Rowe, and as far as I'm aware, and as I've been saying to you guys for well over a week now, my understanding is that he's fully fit, and there's no issues with his fitness. So why he's not being used, I really don't know. I really don't know. Raf says, do you know Smith Rowe can win his? Do you know if Smith Rowe can win his place back? He isn't even being considered off the bench, and it seems to be behind Nelson and Fabio Vieira at the moment. Again, further onto this Smith Rowe thing. He can win his place back, obviously, by taking opportunities when they come, but those opportunities aren't coming for him right now. He's not getting the opportunities on the pitch, and Mikel Arteta isn't giving them to him. I'm hoping that someone maybe asks a question about that in the press conference this week, because I think it's something that needs to be kind of brought into question a bit more. So we'll see if it gets asked. We'll see if Arteta's pushed on that. But yeah, I agree that there are concerns. Certainly concerns about things. Pizza casserole is the perfect comfort meal. It's a warm and cheesy baked pasta with marinara sauce and your favorite pepperoni pizza toppings. I think Marcus has been Googling. I think that does sound like the kind of deep dish type of thing, but maybe it's not got the pastry. Maybe it's like in a casserole dish style of kind of like, I don't know. I have no idea. Casserole pizza. Goodness me. Mike, Johnny is saying, I'm a New York pizza guy myself. Don't love the upside down pizzas, but they still taste good when you're very drunk, which Mike was, let's just say Mike wasn't completely upright when he was walking back to the hotel yesterday. Let's just say it how it is. Paul says, keep meaning to ask Ramsdale/Chicago, where did that come from, or am I missing something? I basically called Ramsdale Chicago by accident on a show, and it stuck because no one ever lets me forget any mistakes I've ever made on a show. So yes, that's where it comes from, Paul. I accidentally called Ramsdale Chicago because I had Chicago on the brain so much that I ended up calling one of our own players after a city that I'm visiting. Lucas says, enjoy Ramsdale Town, Tom. Would you risk Saliba against City if he's not 100%? I came in late and you may have already covered this. Apologies if so. We talked about Saliba briefly, but I'm not really, would I throw him in? It depends how ready he is. If we're saying that, like, if he's played, there's a 50-50 chance he's out for the rest of the season, I'm not sure. Because is it worth risking everything on that one game? Yes, it's a massive game, but could there still be points to be played for even if we were to lose that? I think that we can still get a result without Saliba. I think we've shown against Liverpool and against West Ham that what we're capable of doing in the opening of those games, we can rip teams to shreds without William Saliba being in the side. And there were still question marks defensively about even Saliba after the World Cup and how he returned to that, and obviously how he responded from that period of time off away from the club at the World Cup. He didn't respond and come back in the best way possible. So there's no guarantee that Saliba would give you an immediate improvement anyway, because he's sometimes maybe a little bit slow to return. I think you'd have to be nearly sure that he can play the majority of the match if you're going to risk him. I'm not sure it's worth it otherwise, because you've got to think about the fact that, yes, he's great, but how much are you going to get of Saliba if you just risk him and throw him into this game specifically? GP, thank you so much for the donation. And I think it's a donation that I'm not even going to read out because they're trying to goad us. So thank you for the money, but I'm not going to read out your super chat, mate. But thank you. I really appreciate the kind of support. Stephen says, Tom, what do you think about the mascot story? I feel the media are trying to derail our season. I haven't touched it really at all because I think I said at the time, I think people were going to look very silly. I think it's one of those when the stories started getting discussed and talked about that if you were very forthright in your view on something where you don't know the full story of, you're at risk of looking quite silly. And I think a lot of people have now been made to look quite silly with the subsequent videos that we've seen coming out of Erdegaard's interacting with the mascot before going out to the field. I think the video, obviously, you only see one angle, you don't see the full kind of context of everything. And Arsenal are a club, and the players at Arsenal are brilliant at doing things for the community, for supporters, for charities. So it felt as though it was a bit of a witch hunt for Arsenal based on one video that was kind of clipped and edited, so it didn't even include the full context. It didn't look great. I'd be lying if I said it did. But I think that you have to be more open-minded about the fact that there's probably more to the story than just that one clip. But honestly, the amount of people that jumped on, it's funny because I think I saw Nick Knowles of DIY SOS fame tweeting out and quote tweeting it. When Arsenal do videos of like the amazing things that the club do, like whether it's with the foundation, whether it's the Zaatari refugee camp, whether it's supporting local businesses, you don't see people like Nick Knowles, who I can't even believe I'm even mentioning on a TGT show, people that are based outside of the UK where you have a clue that guy is. But he's basically a TV presenter. He's done like game show hosts, and he's like done like DIY shows. And I remember he quote tweeted it with like a really scathing criticism of the club. Have never seen him, I might be wrong, but I've never seen him or others that were criticising it, quote tweeting, congratulating Arsenal with all the really good things that they've done. You know, it's just human nature, isn't it? I've used the example before of, I remember when I was first starting out in teaching and I went to observe a lesson, and the teacher was doing an exercise on the board, and he put up 5 different mathematical sums, and 4 of them were correct and 1 of them was wrong. And obviously, as he was writing out the 4 sums, hands started to go up in the class, and one of the students was like, "Sir, you've made a mistake there." So he turned around and said, "Okay, so you've picked me up on the one mistake that I've made, but you've not said fair play for getting the other 4 that I did do correct." And obviously that kind of sums up where we're at with this, is that as soon as maybe a mistake, as soon as something doesn't look that great, we're very quick to jump on it. But actually, have we been equally as praising about things that are really good? So the answer is no. Are people coming for us in terms of the media? Well, I mean, this is media, and certainly I've not done that. So a lot of people really back Arsenal. Yes, there are people that are always going to criticise, but I think that's just part and parcel of everything that there is. Let's go. I mean, I should probably get some reactions to that as well in the chat box. Knowledge says, can we talk about the recent abuse towards Bukayo Saka? It's disgusting. Now, I was only made aware of this when I spoke to a colleague of mine 2 days ago, where someone said that Saka had received racist abuse online after the penalty incident against West Ham. Obviously, we don't condone anything in that manner whatsoever. Anything abusive needs to be picked up on. The frustration for me comes from the fact that it still happens, that you can do it so easily without ever getting it picked up on. They aren't Arsenal fans, these people that are doing it. Like, they might claim to be, but they're not. Like, if you're throwing racist abuse at a player, if you're abusing a player in any way, shape or form, be it racism, be it sexism, if it's abuse towards the women's team, you're not an Arsenal fan. It's as simple as that, you know, and that's how it works. But more needs to be done to try and tackle these things. And instead, it seemed that the video, ironically, of the mascot got a lot more attention maybe than people calling out the abuse suffered by Bukayo Saka, which is a real shame, really. Amira says, how are you watching the match on Friday? Yeah, so we've got a live event going on. There's events going on over the whole weekend in Chicago called Gooner Palooza. There are a handful of tickets maybe left, or maybe they might have been sold out now. But I'm pretty sure there's still a handful of tickets left. If you are based in Chicago on Friday, we're going to the Red Line VR for the game, and we've got a podcast there on the Saturday as well. So lots going on. Really excited to see what happens. I'm really excited to see what we're going to be doing and who's going to be there. So yeah, myself, Mike, Sophie, Elliot, Paul for Arsenal Vision, and loads of others as well are going to be there. John, of course, as well. So yeah, loads of people. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And yeah, fantastic stuff. I am going to round the show off there. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in and has tuned in at this very impromptu time. But what I can tell you is that you can set your alarms and your reminders for this time every day for the next 5-6 days, because that's when we're going to be doing these shows. Apologies for the lack of crisp audio that you've not got in this show, and hopefully we see in the future me having a lot better audio quality when I'm back in the UK. But for now, thank you for listening. Do drop a like on the video, do subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always, up the Arsenal.